All right, great. So maybe before I start, let me do some disclaimer. Okay, so just for everyone information, today's sharing purpose is for our own personal reference. It's nothing to do with either it's a buy or sell decision. It's mainly it's a merely extra reference point for those who want to actually purchase any property. Okay.
Correct.
Basically, right, to answer this question, I think most of us know where is Bangsar South, right? If you don't know where is Bangsar South, I think you might heard, people mention that it used to be Kampong Kerinci, right? So what we see here is that, in fact, Bangsar South has seen tremendous growth, right? Not only just from the township point of view, but also from the price point of view, right? So if still can recall last time when we first sell the first project in Bangsar South, which is Panorama, so it was selling at about 380 ringgit per square feet. And that was way before Bangsar South was actually introduced into the market, right? But now, okay, it has come to 1,000 ringgit per square feet. So I think the question is, will it repeat itself, right? Okay. So to answer that, right, I think it's important for us to know what triggered, this spike in the pricing, right? So for those who still not so sure, right, about Bangsar South, let me just do a summary lah. Okay, so actually Bangsar South is not very big. It's only about 60 acres. So in comparative to Desa Park City or Mont Kiara, it's actually much smaller. I think half the size. So what actually makes this small piece of land, right, able to generate such an incredible return to those who have actually invested in Bangsar South was that I believe is because of this, right? So actually what you are seeing on your screen now is the master plan of UOA. UOA is basically the developer of Bangsar South, right? They are the master, sort of the master developer of the whole township. And what happened is that you can see inside Bangsar South, you have multiple elements such as shopping, corporate, and residence. And within this 60-acre township, they also are recognized as one of the MSC status. So for those who don't know what is the MSC status, you can also call them as a tech city, right? So in these places, normally you have a lot of technology companies, startup company, which will set up their firms here. So that also, I believe, what causes the property price here, or even the the commercials to increase in price because of the demand, right? And of course, Bangsar South are also famous for their landscaping. But again, right, there's a typo here. Sorry for that. So again, today I'm not just focusing on the township alone. I'm gonna focus more on numbers, because to me, to answer the question from our audience, it's important for us to know what actually created the demand, right? So to make it simple, okay, Bangsar South is a hotspot for majority of investor or even companies to set up their main headquarters here. Is because it's very obvious that Bangsar South has better accessible in public transport. So you ask yourself, how many projects out there in the market has public transport access, right? For a township, a new township, right? You can hardly count a few except KL Central. Okay. So that also trigger, you can see why big companies chooses here, right? So because of better public transport, you get to access bigger talent pool. Means you can hire people from any places as long they can travel via public transport. Okay. And for that reason alone, okay, it also triggers another form of demand, which is on residential. So actually, you can see that because of the tenant pool coming into Bangsar South, you can see most of the residents staying here are also working here. And for your information, right, because since our audience asked, will the increase in supply of condos, right, will actually affect the demand here? I would say actually the percentage, I would say the effect from the increase in development here actually don't really affect the point of view of the residents staying there. Because why? Most of them, they prefer here is because not only is new, it's organized, but it's also apparently better security than most places in KL, right? And last but not least, of course, for those companies who plan to start, their branches here in Malaysia, we have seen there's an increase in multinational companies who comes here, right? And I think one of the main reasons is because here is ready to, incorporate all this new technology, like 5G is upcoming. So they would need a place which can support such ecosystem. Okay. So For those who don't know, these are some of the major anchor tenants around here, like Alibaba, Honeywell. All these company, I would say, is all in any segments, like either e-commerce, healthcare, right? You name it, they have it, right? So all is actually focused in Bangsar South, and the reason why is because of the points that I mentioned previously. But again, I just want to go straight to numbers because, to answer that first question, you really need to study, like, where are the demand coming from, right? So actually, you can see that in Bangsar South, right, just to share a bit of numbers, right, here you have the highest occupancy rate in terms of offices, right? Which means that all the development that you see just now, all the offices, the malls, you are enjoying very high occupancy rate, right? So that also brings in a lot of working opportunities, which you can see here in Bangsar South alone. There's more than 3,000 registered companies, right? Whether some of them are still there or not, we don't know yet for sure, but there are more than 3,000 companies, right? So that alone, if let's say just talking about working opportunity, there's more than 30,000. So imagine people working here, right? Where would they stay? Yeah. So actually, to answer that question, I would say depending on whether you are from the on-stay point of view or from investor point of view. But today, if you are an investor, right, I would say you will love this number. Okay, right? Yeah. So last but not least, right, I think this one is something which will create a lot of excitement, right, for those who are looking for investment. Because if you don't know, actually, the MRT3 has been announced, has been confirmed, and in fact today, right, they have already started tendering. So what you can notice that Bangsar South in future will have an MRT beside the current LRT, right? So in total, there will be 3 stations, not just LRT but also MRT lah. Okay, so to do a conclusion, I think if for you guys who are still doubting or worried that with the current supply in Bangsar South and even like future development coming in, would it affect, right, the growth? I would say now we are seeing the matured part of Bangsar South. I think the next phase of Bangsar South will be connecting this matured township to whole of whole KL, right? And once it's connected, right, I think with better accessibility and better public transport, it will even trigger more demand coming in, because if you know, MCO has locked down for 2 years. A lot of people actually now rely on, convenience, right? They prefer not to drive out too far. So I think having a place which you can have office, shopping malls, and residents together will always be I would say a top preference for those people, especially those working here, because of the convenience. Yeah. So that's a bit on numbers to start off today's session, because I think there will be more questions coming in, right, Bryan?
Correct. Yeah. So to summarize, why we choose this place, because talent pool is very accessible. There are a lot of big companies, a lot of the occupancy rate is very high, plus there's a lot of working opportunities. There's MRT3 plus LRT, and also it's very convenient lah. There's a shopping mall, residence, and commercial. Am I right, Eric?
Actually, there will be more lah, because later I have more exciting news to announce.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so Miss Lee, I hope that we have answered your question. So for the next question that we have, is from Mr. Ang. Bangsar South supply of condos have seen an increase over the past years. So what makes Goodwood different? It's a great question.
Again, I think these questions are quite similar to the first question, where it's mainly on concerns whether if I enter Bangsar South now, is it too late? I hope this is the concern or the thought process, right? Because actually today, right, for this session, I also prepare something for you guys where I summarize, right, all the projects here. Okay, so if you watch this session today, you have already saved a lot of hours of your time, because you can already see what is the trend, right? So talking about that, right, I do agree the point that Bangsar South has, of course, increased in supply of condos over the past, I think, 10 to 20 years, because of what you see, all the infrastructure development, right? So in order to answer that question, first we have to understand, okay, is there a change in demand for Bangsar South condo, right? Once you know where the demand is changing, right, then I believe if you buy the right product, you can able to capture the future 5 to 10 years and hopefully can able to make 100 to 200% return, right? So how do we know that? First of all, we have to break down Bangsar South to the first most project, which is Panorama. So this is actually way before Bangsar South was actually developed, and it was completed in 1996. So this project actually, if you see the layout, is very big, right? From 750 square feet up to 5,000 square feet, and it's freehold some more. So back in those days, right, there's plenty of freehold land around. So I can say those who actually make the first purchase here, okay, you'll be surprised that their purchase price per square feet is less than 300 ringgit.
Oh, that's
right?
really low, huh?
Yeah, now it's selling at 650. So they have already, I think, doubled what they have invested. Okay. Then because of the increase because of the development of Bangsar South, hence it bring forth this first residential development by UA in Bangsar South, which is called, in fact, there's 3 phases, the Park, Acacia, and Begonia. These 3, I would say, if you add up, is about 940 units. Back in those days, right, 940 units in 2011 is considered mid-dense, right? Not to the point of high dense. But still, there's a lot of people who doubt that this project will actually perform well because of the supply, right? 940 units, right? So for those who make the first investment here, they actually bought it at about 380 ringgit per square feet at that time. Now it's selling like 750 per square feet. Again, they have doubled their money. In fact, they make 100% return, right? So you can see that the sizes for this layout are still very big, right? So there's 1,200 to 3,400 square feet, which starting from 2+1 to 4 bedrooms. Okay, then slowly, because of the success, right, on 2014, you have another development called Capri and Camellia. So these two also are new trend in development where you have hotel element inside the condo. So actually, Capri is a hotel and Camellia is like a service apartment. And actually, they sell out very fast because it's very modern and apparently you have a sky bar on the top, right? So it also brings in a lot of business traveler to stay here. So you can see that slowly the layout of the condo are getting to 600 square feet, right? So from
smaller,
getting smaller and smaller, right? Up to you can see the size are from 1 room onwards. Okay. Then until 2017, I would say this is the first spike in Bangsar South development, right? Because you have these 2 new supply here. One is Subview, one is KL Gateway, right? So for these 2 projects, you can notice the sizes are very small, right? From 500 square feet, some are even 640 square feet. So if you add on these both together, right, you have a lot of these units coming into Bangsar South to capture the market here. And you can see most of their sizes are quite similar. It's about 1 to 3 rooms. Okay, and the biggest you can get is about 1,003 square feet. Yeah. Then slowly you understand, right? Because of that, 2019, there comes another new project. And this particular project sells also very well because it's a freehold project. Okay, so you can see from freehold, Bangsar South had turned to leasehold. Then in between you have freehold projects coming along in Bangsar South. So again, it causes another spike of property prices in Bangsar South alone because you have freehold. Then you can see also, right, the price have reached to the top, where you can see the selling price now has come to 1,000 ringgit per square feet. Okay, wow. So for those, right, who has still doubt in mind whether if I buy or enter into Bangsar South, is it too late, right? Actually, you can see from here, you will notice the trend of Bangsar South is that besides it's getting smaller and smaller, freehold projects also are getting more and more expensive, right? And there comes, I would say, the trophy of Bangsar South, which is, I would say, this one of a kind, okay? 2,300 square feet sizes to 3,004 square feet, selling at 800 ringgit per square feet, which means to say easily one unit is almost 1.8 million onwards. Just imagine that, 1.8 million condo, right, within your neighborhood. And this project alone, I would say, has also changed the ceiling price of Bangsar South. You get what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, right, you can see in between 2020, 2021, every year almost lah, right? You have new projects upcoming, but then you can slowly realize that the supply is actually starting to slow down, mainly because during this period there's COVID also lah.
Correct.
Okay, which means to say, right, now, right, as an investor lah, okay, if you want to enter this market, is it too late? So my analysis on this is that we have to look at the completion date in order to compare, because we can't compare like now condo to like Panorama, which is like, you know, almost 20 years ago, right? We have to look at the current supply. I would say the recent few years lah. Because if you look at just now when I break it down, right, you will notice, right, all the layouts are getting smaller and smaller. While for those very big units, like estate, we have seen the price have skyrocket to 800 ringgit per square feet, which translates to 1.8 million onwards. So if today you as a, let's say as an investor, and you plan to enter Bangsar South and hopefully sell with a gain in future, I would say your decision is actually quite straightforward lah. It's either today you buy a small unit, you know, you have a few like South Bank, all these which are very cheap, maybe 200,000-300,000 you can actually purchase one, but then the layout is very small and you have a lot of competition. Like you can see one block is almost 1,004 units. Or you want to be different, okay, by targeting a new market. So to me, Bangsar South, the future trend is that when all these projects, right, like what you see just now, all the older ones and the newer ones, we are selling so expensive at almost 1,000 ringgit per square feet, there will be market, I believe, who are looking for this, right? First, low density. Because most of these projects, you can see those with price that is lower than, let's say, 1 million, okay? Some have even 1,004 units. So those with people who are looking for own stay, low density, right? Actually, there's not much option unless they look at the estate or nowhere, which you have to pay almost 1,000 ringgit per square feet, if you get what I mean, right? So second point is that pricing, right, for Bangsar South must be right. You must enter at the right price, right? So later I will share to you why I believe this project, okay, actually has gotten the right pricing. And most importantly, lastly, which I believe is the selling point of this project, is the size. Because the smallest here is 950 and the biggest can go up to 2,000 square feet, right? So to answer the question that, you know, with the current supply in the market, will it affect the future development? I would say it depends on what are the target market you want to target. If today you want to target own stay buyers in future, right, which one do you think they will choose? Right, I believe the size itself will determine the demand itself lah. Yeah, so this is how I would position and how would I set Goodwood apart from others lah. Yeah.
So we have seen from the beginning, prices are very low, but that was in the development of this whole township. So then the developments are getting smaller and smaller. Finally reaching to this point, Goodwood residents, they're finally going back to the bigger size unit.
Which is very rare, right?
Which is very rare actually. Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope this answers Mr. Ang's question. Bangsar South supply of condos have seen an increase over the past years, and what makes Goodwood different? So I hope that with Harry's explanation, you are able to get a very clear answer lah. So let's move forward. We have another question by Joseph.
Yep.
I have seen this project, but the access is quite concerning. Any future plan on expanding the access?
All right, so that's a good point, because I believe people who think of Bangsar South, right, what would you think of? Maybe Bryan, you can answer this.
When we talk about Bangsar South, normally we think of it as
the most common perception.
Okay,
what do you think?
the first thing I think of is that the place is very atas and the traffic is one way and horrible. Quite to me lah, quite jam I would say.
Yeah. So I believe not just our audience who have this question. I think most of the people who are watching, right, you will have doubt in mind whether with the current traffic in Bangsar South, will it cause the projects here to depreciate in value? Actually, if you ask me, I think it depends also on what has the developer done to improve the accessibility. So to answer that, right, I will first analyze from own stay point of view. So let's say today I'm staying in Goodwood residence. Okay, how would I travel in and travel out? So the easiest way to answer this is to start with the map itself, right? So if you notice, right, Goodwood residence is located at the peak of Pantai Hill. So this is actually Pantai Hill, part of, right? So right in front you have the Nexus Mall, which is considered the biggest exhibition hall in Bangsar South itself, or even within this area. Okay, so if you walk further up, you have UA Corporate Tower. So this is where the main road of Bangsar South. Okay, so there's also another back road here, which called Pantai Permai. So you can imagine, right, there's two access ways, one from the main road and one from the Pantai Permai, which is the residential areas. Okay, to even break it down into details, how would the accessibility actually will determines the project potential itself, we will have to look at also Goodwood, the overall master plan. Okay, so here, right, I will show you one of my analysis, which I think that Goodwood, even with the current traffic in Bangsar South, still has a potential advantage. Okay, because first thing, right, beside you can direct access to Federal Highway via the main road, which also brings you to places like Mid Valley and all. You can also access via the MPE Highway. Okay, so you can see Goodwood has two access roads. So that's number one. Okay, number two, you also have the upcoming Duke 3 Highway, which some will call it the SPE Highway, which then also cut down the distance between our side to KL. Right, so for those who don't know what is this highway, later I will share you why this highway is so important. Okay, because talking about accessibility, right, I'm sure that for those who are considering to buy for own stay or investment, you will always found that most property in KL, those which are near LRT normally right, is either very expensive or either the environment is not that nice, right? Here, one thing good is that because to share on accessibility, there are two existing LRT stations. One is University, one is in this called the 𝐒𝐤𝐞𝐜𝐤𝐿. Okay, and also there's another one, right? This is a very exciting news, which just now I have shared, right? Bangsar South is also with part of the MRT Line 3 Circle Line, and apparently, right, this is based on rumors don't take my word, for real, but you can take it as a speculation that it will be very close to the Goodwood residence. And aside from that, right, just now I touched on Duke 3, right, and what I believe is a game changer is that, okay, you can find this online, but to save your time, you can see that actually Bangsar South will have a direct access to this highway, which is the third, what we call the Duke Highway. So Duke actually have three highways, right? So this is the third one. And what you can notice in between, there's two stops, which I believe has huge potential. Number one, you have the 𝐒𝐤𝐞𝐬𝐿 Highway, which is linked from our highway, this SPE, which can also redirect you to Jalan Ampang and Tun Razak and Jelatik. So just imagine, normally when we travel to KL from Bangsar South, it will take us like 20 minutes. Now, it's less than 10 minutes. And you can reach already the main route of KL.
So 𝐤𝐞𝐤𝐿 actually asked, which layout should I choose for investment or own stay? This is for Goodwood residents, yeah?
Wow, I think this question is like most asked question, right? It's whenever talking about investment or own stay, everyone wants both, right?
Correct.
Like if best can stay and can invest. So to me, when I look at this project, okay, I can actually separate the types of layout into few. Okay, so before that, right, maybe let me go back to my screen.
Okay.
Just give me a minute. Okay. Right, so for this, right, I actually has did a summary on the product itself, which is on Goodwood. So to know whether which layout is suitable for which purpose, first we have to understand what are the supply here first, right? So for those who still don't know about this property, maybe I can do a summary. Okay. So actually it has only one block, which I like, because a lot of property in market nowadays, you have multiple blocks,
Correct.
right? So one block actually increase the accessibility of the condo and the car park, which means you don't have to walk very far. So within the same lift, you can actually travel to your own unit. Okay. And sharing on whether which for own stay or investment, Goodwood, I would say majority of the buyers are targeting at own stay. So that also, I would say, separates the layout, whether you are looking for own use or investment. And if you buy for investment, it will also sort of attract the type of buyers that you want, which I would say here in Goodwood is mostly for own stay. Okay. And another thing that you must understand is that Goodwood also is purely residential, which means there's no commercial below. So that also, again, emphasize the point that it's really focusing on the living quality of the people inside. So if to link back to the question and also the points that I made before that, I think you have to really look at, first thing, the price you're entering. Secondly, like just now when I showed you the trend of the development, you have seen that Bangsar South have started from big units to small unit to even compact unit, right? To now, like, some are even selling like 1,000 per square feet, right? So where would the people actually look for in future when all these projects, right, is in the market and it's completed? Yeah, so you must think of your property in terms of what is the advantage. So this, I would say, is the first few advantage of Goodwood. Okay, so others of all these, I think just now I have already touched on. So to back to the layout, right? As we know, Goodwood is a very focused on own stay concept. Okay, I will also share on the layout itself so that you guys can understand what are the types here, right? So Goodwood, actually, if you look at the brochures, right, you can see most of, I would say 80% of the brochure is sharing on the facilities, like the clubhouse, the lake, the little pond, and they also even have hot bath. So I would say it's very focusing on multi-generation living, right? So as an investor, when you see this sort of property, right, which highly emphasize on stay, then we have to look also on the layout, like which type of layout I would say is the most niche in the market or rare, right? So actually, if you can notice, Goodwood started smallest unit is actually a dual key unit, okay, which I would say is quite interesting because within such a own stay sort of development, you have dual key concept, which I believe is good for those single. So if today you are, let's say you are renting a place in Bangsar South, paying like 2,500 to 3,000 ringgit rental, you might consider to buy type A as both own stay and investment. Because I believe the amount of installment you're paying with the rental you are paying is almost the same, but you can actually have two units together where one you can still rent out, so you can still get back money, right? So imagine that. But if let's say you are from a family point of view, it means you want to start a family, okay, or you have plans to actually settle down for good in KL, then I would suggest you can look at A1 onwards, which is you have the 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. So for the 4 bedrooms in Goodwood, there is few types, right? I would summarize for you guys like how would you differentiate Okay, of course, first of all, in Goodwood, 3 bedrooms are quite standard You have balcony, you have the yard, and you have the bedrooms on one side. Same for 4 bedrooms, you also have balcony and yard. Okay, you also have 4 bedrooms tucked on one side. So you can see B and B1 is almost the same. The difference is only the balcony So if you move further, you can see also B2, right, which also is the same layout but with a bigger balcony. And the one that actually are most different than all the previous type is actually type C. Okay, why I would say type C is different because type C onwards, right, you can see the living area is starting to become big, where you can get like 20 feet wide, right, over the dining space here, and you can also find dry and wet kitchen. Okay, so I think if today you are from an investor point of view, right, or you might be start considering to stay first and maybe rent out in future, I think this 1,003 square feet is just the perfect size. Because if you look back at the total supply in Bangsar South just now when I share, most of the development, the largest unit is about 1,003 square feet or 1,004 max right? Those which are bigger than 1,004 is like, the previous project which I shared, which has 1,008 to 2,004 That one is already, almost double the price of this project Okay, so looking at the supply and looking at the this layout, I would say if you are looking for appreciation, means you want to buy and hold for the medium term, I think this unit strongly you can consider. First thing, the size of the common area. The reason why for that is because I believe family nowadays, especially in COVID times, if you know during lockdown, they prefer to have a study area. They prefer to have a private kitchen because they will cook a lot at home, right?
Correct.
So I think the trend or the preference of people are starting to change. That also contributes to the fact that why I would suggest Type C. If you are looking for long-term holding, that means you want to buy and keep and hopefully sell at a much higher price in the future. So other than that, we have the bigger unit like C1, Type D, and there's two versions of Type D and also Type E, which is sort of similar to Type C, just that you for Type D like this, you have one more bathroom, so it's 4 bedroom, 4 bathroom. Okay, and you have Type E, which have 5 bedroom, 5 bathroom. This one will be something of those who like to have 2 families to stay in one house.
This is really big.
Yeah, but whether does the market has this sort of demand, I would say 5 bedroom is really for Wednesday. This is my point of view.
Correct. It's very generational planning. That's why something I like about this project. Can you go back to the slide before that you show Type B? Because I noticed the Type B to the balcony is exceptionally huge compared to the rest.
Yes.
That is something very unique.
Yeah. So for those who are looking for 4 bedrooms, 1,002 square feet, and then one big balcony, right? You have this very rare type which only have 2 units per floor. Okay. Because actually one thing also to let everyone know, like audience who are watching who haven't heard of Goodwood residence, right? Generally Goodwood has 2 facing, which here I will share a bit more specific. But in details, you can always refer back to the brochure or you can click the link below. So Bryan actually will share the link out later. Because in Goodwood residence, right, I would say if there is a chance, if there is still a chance, you can go for the Bukit Pantai view. Because in Bangsar South, most of the condos here are facing each other. There's no view that is not blocked by any condo office, right? So Bukit Pantai is actually an unblocked view. So that also, I think, will affect the decision making, right, for either own stay or investor. So
Correct.
if let's say, right, just to narrow down the options, if just look at Bukit Pantai alone, you have the smallest unit Type A, which I think is sold out. Then you have the Type B2, which you like, the big balcony.
Yes.
Okay, so if you want big balcony, this is the unit you have to shortlist already. Okay. Then you have the Type B1 also, which has smaller balcony, but is still 4 bedrooms. And then you have the Type C, which I recommended, which you have one on here, one at the corner. Okay, so the difference is this is the corner unit, while this is a semi-corner. It's still a corner, but not to the extreme, right? To the extreme, you have the Type D, which is the 1,006 square feet. I think that's also another bestseller in Goodwood residence, because on this side, you have the Bukit Gasing view, right? Which from the rooms itself, you can see. So that also added in another decision making, where if you are someone that want to buy something which have greenery view in the middle of city, I think Goodwood has the best view so far, if you ask me, in Bangsar South. Okay, so the others are the smaller units, like just now we have share Type A, Type B, and Type C. Okay, so yeah, that's
so you
about
think?
it.
Yep. I hope that this explanation and brief by Harris has helped you understand which layout you should choose for.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you on just while you're talking. Is that
no problem.
One thing about Goodwood also is that the lift here are actually separate into 2 corridors, where one side of the lift will serve one corridor. So
I see.
Yeah.
So normally this only happens if there are 2 blocks, but this is all under the same block. It's just that they have different serving lift.
Yes.
Right? So can the other lift go to your block?
No.
No, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this hopefully this one answered your question, you think, in your question, which says, which layout should I choose for investment or own stay? So he has already explained in depth which kind you like, and also for your own stay preference, you can choose the one facing Pantai one, the hill one, very nice view. Okay, so next question we have from Mr. Bala, which is, what is your outlook for this project?
All right. So I think this question is also, I think most commonly asked, because I think looking at the price point, the layout, some maybe will have doubt in mind whether if today I invest in such a big unit, right, like 1,002 to 2,000 square feet, will the cash flow, right, or the capital that I put in, okay, able to generate me sufficient cash flow to cover my costs or even to have positive cash flow every month, right? So I think if we able to answer this question, right, it will automatically determine the outlook of this project already.
Correct.
So for today, right, okay, I actually prepare a simple, what I believe will be the rental projection now. And this is based on the current demand and supply in the market, of course, right? Then you can still decide later whether is it right for you. Okay. So let me pull out the slide again. Okay. Next time I need an assistant, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So okay, let me share my screen. Right. So to answer that, right, basically I will look at the cash flow. Because if the cash flow can sustain the property itself, actually, as an investor yourself, you are pretty much letting other people to pay for your property, right? So if there is a positive cash flow, why not, right? You go for the bigger and better. So this is always my rule of thumb, right? So in Bangsar South, right, if you notice, this is some of the statistics, okay? You can notice that most people, right, okay, in terms of demand, okay, are normally the studio or 3 rooms. Because you can see the rental price here is a big jump, right? From 2003 for 1 bedrooms, with the average rental, if you look at in general, it's about 2001. Suddenly you jump to 4,000. Okay. So what I believe contribute to this sort of jump, right, is that because like what I mentioned just now, Bangsar South, in terms of supply of condo, normally is, you can see, is within this size, right? The 1 bedroom. But 3 bedrooms onwards is very, very rare. Even so, if you're able to buy one, it's very expensive. So for that reason, right, I believe if today you're asking me for the outlook, when you see this number, right, actually it already shows you a very healthy market. Because with 4,000 ringgit rental, right, let's assume your installment, let's say for the 1,002, the big balcony one that Bryan mentioned, okay, 4 bedroom as well. Every month your cash flow is about, let's say for installment purpose, right, to calculate, you're only paying like 3,008 or 3,007. So which means that you can still able to cover, right? So this is always, I would say, the general rule that you need to know of before you actually buy into or choosing which layout, or even to determine whether the outlook of this project. Okay, so I believe for Goodwood is a very healthy market because you can see that, you know, because of the high price and the small unit supply in the market, for bigger or medium size unit, you can get a very good rental. So for 4 bedroom onwards, of course you can see right, you can even spike up to 6,500, which, you know, beside Mont Kiara, I don't think any other place in KL which you can get this price unless it's KLCC.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think now if you want to enter the market, okay, either Bangsar South or in general, okay, because since you asked me on my outlook, I would summarize the current market as this chart, right? So by looking at this chart, you will know what am I referring to. Because right now, right, you can see that the market in the past 2 years have seen interest rate drop. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. So what happened is that because of interest rate drop, your installment has been lowered down. Means that for the same property loan, right, your monthly commitment will be lesser per month. So you can see why in the past 2 years, the loan approval rate actually has increased, right? Even though MCO happens. But will this continue? Okay, my prediction is that if today the market were to slow down, or you can see nowadays market are starting to just recover, but you have the war, you have a lot of things are happening as we are speaking, right? So what will happen is that during the phase of market recovery, right, people who want to buy into like Bangsar South, these areas, you will see that loan approval rates will start to drop. Cause what? Bank will be starting to get more cautious. Am I right?
Correct.
So in this period, right, what we call phase 2 and phase 3, where you come to the bottom of the market, okay, the next spike, I believe, is when the market recovers. That's when the loan approval rate will come back up to a high point. Right. So as an investor, if today you want to buy into Bangsar South or Goodwood in general, right, you have to understand which phase you are buying into. Because if you buy the wrong phase, let's say end up that your rental cannot cover your installment, then I believe it's a high risk area. But because as what I show you, the rental here in Goodwood around this area is high, what I can suggest you is you can buy while now the interest rate is low, so that when the market continues to recover, you can hold the property and make positive cash flow, or let's say don't say positive lah, we say just cover lah, right? And then later, when the market recovers, right, you can target to offload. And by that time, I believe with the LRT, the highway, the accessibility, it will definitely bring bigger appreciation to your property value. So this is my insight on the property itself, if you ask me, and whether now is the right time to enter. So I hope you answered the last question.